Hello and welcome to the Beat Cancer Answer, brought to you by BeatCancer.Org, the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education. We believe that 90% of all cancers could be eliminated through environmental and lifestyle choices alone, and science agrees. Unfortunately, most people don't know it, so we provide the education that can help you prevent, cope with, and beat cancer through diet, lifestyle, and other immune-boosting approaches. On every podcast, we will feature an expert who can teach us how to become part of that 90% who could prevent getting diagnosed with cancer. If you already have cancer, we have empowering information for you too. Over the past 35 years, we have helped thousands of cancer patients get back into the driver's seat when it comes to their personal journey of healing cancer and preventing future reoccurrence. Listen as BeatCancer.Org's Community Outreach Director, Debbie Melamed, interviews Dr. Leigh Erin Connealy, author of her soon-to-be-released book, The Cancer Revolution.
Today we have with us Dr. Leigh Erin Connealy. Dr. Connealy has been practicing medicine for 30 years. She has revolutionized the landscape of medicine with her 3 integrative centers in Irvine, California, the Center for New Medicine, the Cancer Center for Healing, and the Addiction Center for Healing. She's a frequent guest on the Truth About Cancer Global Summit video series, as well as a recurring speaker at the Cancer Answers Global Summit. Dr. Connealy has been published in monthly health columns for Coast and OC Health magazines. She is published in the Journal of the American Nutraceutical Association, along with Healthy Aging magazine and Townsend Letter. She is a frequent writer for Natural News and Newport Natural Health online magazine. Most recently, she is the author of the forthcoming book, The Cancer Revolution, a groundbreaking program to reverse and prevent cancer. Her new book is a compilation of some of the newest cancer treatments available today and a plan for preventing and healing cancer. It offers practical strategies that have helped thousands of patients, and the foreword is written by Dr. Joseph Mercola, which is a notable endorsement. Her book will be released January 24th, 2017, and can be pre-ordered on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. We are so excited to hear more about Dr. Connealy and her new book. So welcome, Dr. Connealy. It is a pleasure to have you with us.
Well, thank you, Debbie. It's great that you have the desire to educate and empower people. So this is great.
Yes, and thank you so much for writing this book. I read it cover to cover, and it is jam-packed with an arsenal of information to empower people to have control over their own health and their cancer diagnosis if they have one. So it's so great to benefit from your knowledge and experience.
Well, thank you. It's my privilege, and, I've been through a lot of health challenges to write this book.
Yes.
So out of
usually
poison
what leads
becomes
us.
Passion, right, Debbie?
Yes, passion and experience.
Right.
So with about 1 in 2 people getting cancer now, everyone's been touched by cancer. Can we start by explaining what cancer is and why it's a whole body disease and not a disease of a body part that can just be cut off?
Right, yes. And so what is cancer? Cancer is the uncontrollable, erratic nature of a cell that's gone rogue and or gone postal, even better put.
Yes.
And so it's a cell that's lost its natural order. And with that said, you make one abnormal cell, and then it's very, very smart and starts to replicate it, more bad copies of that first abnormal cell. And so, and believe it or not, this is probably about a 10-year process. It takes about 10 years to actually detect a lump or bump in the body. So we have a phenomenal opportunity to prevent cancer because it takes 10 years to develop and manifest in the body. And yes, cancer is a disease of the body, not a body part, because our whole body is one entire holistic system that works in concert to take care of itself. And when we have too many invading chemicals, stress, and poor lifestyle, etc., then we have the consequences of cancer, and it will go to the weakest part, so to speak.
I see.
And so we can't just attack the lump or bump. We have to support the entire system in its whole to take care of itself. And that's how you're going to get rid of cancer. Now, there may be a necessity to do a surgery, to do a chemo, to do radiation. Okay, there are, because sometimes we get patients in very late stages, and we may have to use some of those intervening circumstances. But I tell people, if you need surgery or chemo or radiation, that's just the first 3 steps of 100. And so there's so much. So we have to, first of all, make sure that the foundation of the body is in optimal health. And that's whether you have an illness or whether you don't have an illness. But when you have an illness, whether it's high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer, we want to make sure that the body and all the cells are in working order. So what does that mean? Okay, well, the cell doesn't work by itself. The cell works in a community with all the other trillions of cells. And the biochemistry of the cell works with nutrients and essential fatty acids. So if you have a deficiency, for example, just in zinc, you are going to have an environment for cancer. If you have lots of chemical toxicity in the body, it will create an error in the it will attack the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the powerhouse engines of the cells that help your body make ATP, which is the currency of life. So, example, if you have too much mercury in the body, it will interfere with the functionality of every single cell in your body. So that means it won't be correctly working. So let's say if you have a deficiency in essential fatty acids, they're called essential because you must have them. And every membrane of the cell is made up of essential fatty acids. So when I see a patient, and when any doctor sees a patient, they should be looking at the functional aspect of every cell, checking the entire chemistry of the body, all of the hormones, all of the nutrients, and all the toxic load of the body. Because if we don't repair the body and its deficiencies, it can't work for you.
I see. So it's a more complex, holistic thing that the whole body has to be addressed.
Exactly. The entire mind, body, spirit must be addressed, because even a lot of people don't understand that there's an emotional component to every illness, right? So, for example, breast cancer, it's unrest in a woman's nest. So it might be a child, a husband, a mother. Something is not happy, and so that will create more. People don't realize how stress affects the DNA of the cell. So that's why it's so important that every single day we wake up, and before we get out of bed, we should be expressing to the universe an attitude of gratitude for everything that we have. And we thank the universe or God for the amazing healing capacity of our body. We thank the universe for an amazing immune system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so because our cells become what we're thinking and saying to ourselves, what is the story we're saying to ourselves every day? If we say to myself, well, I'm really not confident, I'm really fat, and I really just don't know how to do that. Well, that's how your life's going to be.
I see.
But if you say, you know what? Thank you, universe, for the amazing confidence that I'm going to have. And it took me 60 years to learn this. Okay, so it's not something I knew, early on. But we can teach people now, today, to live like this. And we need to, because our entire population is suffering with some kind of serious illness. Almost everybody. Our children are, our young adults are, our adults are. Just for cancer alone, 1,600 people die a day, and no one knows. How is that possible when we have more news people, more TV shows, more publications, more communication, and no one takes a stand? If an airplane crashes, we hear about it forever and ever and ever with 100 people, 200, and I'm not saying that's not necessary, yes, but 1,600 people die every day and it's never talked about. That's why I wrote the book, because we need to have an open discussion. We need to have an open dialogue. We need to look at all the potential healing possibilities out there, because people are suffering way too much.
Yeah, because I think there's this idea that it's like a genetic thing we have no control over, and it just is not connected to anything within our control.
Well, no, nature just came out with an amazing scientific article that, yes, now we know what causes cancer. We know exactly what causes cancer. It is our lifestyle and environment, not genetics. And
so we have a lot of control.
Yes, so we have so much control. We now know. But what doctors are discussing the lifestyle and the environment of our patients? Who is? No one is.
No, they're not.
And we should be. We should be talking to our patients about everything in their life and looking at the toxic load. We already know there's article after article after article. Pollution kills people. So everything we breathe, eat, and drink is bad. The water's bad. The food's bad. Pollution, everything that's going in our system is toxic. But what doctors talk about it with the patients, what doctors teach the patients how to detox. Everyone, if you're healthy or unhealthy, needs to do some form of detoxification. It's an absolute must living in 2016. Autism is 1 in 40 or 50 kids. And all of our children 50% of our children have some diagnosis already of autism, ADD, asthma, obesity, depression, etc. And we aren't talking about this. We're not making this an open dialogue. That's horrific.
It really is. And in the book, you talk about 3 main categories of the primary causes of cancer and all disease, really, being infections, toxins, and biological factors. So let's talk about these categories so people can understand how to deal with them and how to reduce their cancer risk. Because you say there's the usual suspects of tobacco and smoking, and we know too much sunlight and the mercury.
Right.
A lot of people know about those, but then there's other things that people don't know about.
Right. Well, I would say one of the biggest things is the invisible electrical energy web that we have all around us.
With the cell phones and the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, because Edison invented electricity, and ever since then, and we came out with the cell phone and computers in the 80s, I believe.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the trend in illness, I would say that the last 30 years, and I've been practicing 30. So when I first started practicing medicine, I never saw what I see now. Never. Okay? And now, I mean, we see so much disasters. I mean, it's horrific illness. And people don't realize because it's invisible. It's invisible, so it therefore it doesn't exist. Well, we know that these fields, these electromagnetic fields, are very, very serious threat, and it's been published in lots and lots of publications. And in Europe, it's an illness. It's an actual diagnosis, electromagnetic sensitivity. Here, it's not, because I'm not sure why, because they don't want you to know, because let's face it, we all have phones, we all have iPads and computers and all kinds of other electronic gadgets. But the energy emanating from all of these is very, very, very serious. And
so what can we do?
Well, what should we do? That's a great question, because we've got to have, for every situation, we must have a solution. And so what I would think the biggest thing to do is one, like, for example, I have cell phone protection, and there's that has metamorphosized into many different things, but they've gotten definitely better at that. So I use something for my cell phone, and I'll personally, every single night, I turn off the electricity to my bedroom, okay? I had an electrical engineer come out to my house to assess the electrical output because I know about this because at every medical conference, they talk about it. So we need to err on the side of caution, even if we don't know the full ramifications. What we do, we know so much now. It's 2016. We are in the era of information and discovery. So we know what's going on. But again, like I said, you need to err on the side of caution. And so what I do is I literally turn off the electricity to my bedroom. Now, I personally wear a necklace that harmonizes the electromagnetic fields. So the other thing, you can buy grounding sheets for your bed because your sleep is the most critical time for your body to regenerate and to heal. So you need to be sleeping in a non-electrical room. So that means no plugs, because even the plug is emanating electricity. Then you have the extrinsic or extraneous Wi-Fi stuff from the environment, okay? Meaning outside your bedroom, okay, and outside your house, you have electrical fields. And so those are the extraneous electrical fields that are still coming in. They come in through the glass, the walls, and everything, unless you personally paint your house with specific kind of paint and cover the window panes with a very specific coating to prevent any of the EMFs coming into your house. So that is available now today, Debbie.
Yes.
So,
I have
but
seen that.
we can try. It's easy. It doesn't cost anything or do anything. Now, if you live in an apartment building, you're going to have a bigger problem because you have the electrical field from everybody else.
Right.
So you have to do something. You have to. A lot of my patients, they have, it's called a VitaSet generator, and they put that in their bedroom, and it's amazing the difference in how you sleep.
VitaSet generator.
Yeah, VitaSet generator that they put underneath their bed, and again, it harmonizes the electrical energy web that's all around us.
Wonderful.
And so, and people can, the best thing is connect with nature. Walk outside, walk on sand, walk on dirt. Now, if you're in Minnesota and it's freezing cold, you can't do those kinds of things. So that's why we have these other things that you can use. Like I said, you can have grounding sheets. There's all kinds of things you can do.
Do you turn off your Wi-Fi at night also?
Oh, yes. Yes,
okay.
You can do that. You can have someone come out. They have engineers now. It's called BAU biology, BAU biology. And it's how to build homes that are non-toxic and safe and don't have, they don't have toxic anything, whether it's paint or toxic water, toxic, all the like you said, design a thing that can turn off all the Wi-Fi at night, everything. So all of that is available today, but I think people don't truly understand the serious nature of that toxin.
I don't think so either.
No, they don't. They think, oh, that's just BS. And I'm like, well,
I wear amber glasses too, when the lights go down, when the sun goes down, or if I'm on my iPhone, I have blue blockers on. So I think that helps too.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Right.
And for my children.
That's great. That's fabulous.
But that doesn't block the EMFs, but at least you're blocking the blue light. It is a very complex situation, but there is a lot of information online too.
Yes, there is. Lots of information. So anyway, and then, you talk about all the toxins. Look at all the antibiotics in the food. Look at all the hormones in the food. Look at all the chemicals in the food dyes. Look at the drugs. Like, I will tell you an interesting story. a girl told me, she goes, Dr. Connealy, I just need to talk to you for 1 minute. I just want to thank you. This was today, and she lives up in San Francisco, and she goes, years ago I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and they had me on 3 medications. They were immunosuppressant drugs, right?
Yes.
And what happened taking the immunosuppressant drugs? She got kidney cancer.
Oh.
Right. So they took her off the drugs, obvious reason. And they, if you watch the commercials on all the televisions when you're watching the news, they tell you all the side effects. Not all of them, but some of the biggies, right? But you can go read the physician's desk reference to figure out all the side effects. But anyway, she told me, she goes, Dr. Connealy, I have no more rheumatoid arthritis. You've cured me of my cancer. And I said, well, did your doctors, so her doctor's up in San Francisco. She had a rheumatologist and an oncologist. So they said, well, you don't need to be our patient anymore because you don't need the drug, so I don't need to see you, and you don't have any evidence anymore of rheumatoid arthritis. And then the oncologist said, you don't have cancer, and you're doing great. Did they ask how she cured herself and healed herself?
Probably not.
No. Now, wouldn't you think you would be curious to know how someone doesn't have rheumatoid arthritis anymore and how someone cured themselves from cancer?
Yeah.
And they're doing great? Wouldn't you? You just not being a doctor would want to know, correct?
Of course.
So it's really sad that we are doing a disservice to the patients. And why wouldn't that doctor want to help another patient to get better?
Yeah, we're so entrenched in the dogma.
Yeah, but
no one's asking questions.
Right, and it's just so sad.
It is sad.
Anyway, so that's why I wrote the book, to educate and empower people to know truly the power they have, and the knowledge is power.
So we can choose with our food to not eat processed foods, to cook our own food, to get things from farms. You talked about the ionizing radiation. I mean, how they're irradiating the food to eliminate organisms that cause foodborne illness.
So that goes inside of you, right? So, so that has the possibility of, radicalizing the DNA in our body. And
so if you buy organic food, is it irradiated?
No. You should try to do your local farmer's market, okay? Grow your own food is the best, but let's face it, not everybody has the time and energy to do that. But the second would be all the farmer's markets. And then the third is demand it at your grocery store. It's interesting. I live in Irvine, California, and I used to go to my local Albertsons is the grocery store closest to me, but I never went there. And so it's interesting, Albertsons headquarters is real close to my office. And now every truck says, serving only the finest organic food. And I'm like, wow, we have come a long way.
It is starting to happen, yes.
It's starting to happen, but if you demand it and you don't shop there and you don't support the bad things that can affect us, then that's when change is going to happen. And that is what is happening.
Right. So we have to vote with our dollar.
Exactly.
So there was a couple other things, the xenoestrogens, which are from plastic, so everyone's drinking out of plastic bottles.
Yes, let's talk about that. Xenoestrogen. Xeno is the Greek word for foreign. And there was a great documentary by National Geographic, The Plastic Ocean, and several other people have done incredible things in talking about the plastics. And we know in the literature that plastics are the number one pollutant in our bodies now. Number two, it is causing heart disease, diabetes, and cancer.
Is it really?
So one big thing that we all can do is not use plastic and not because we're destroying our planet and ourselves. So when we do things, it needs to help ourselves and help our planet thrive and survive. So plastics are not biodegradable. So that's why they're in everything. So everyone needs to drastically reduce their plastic environment completely.
So we could buy stainless steel or glass water bottles and refill them.
Yeah, exactly. I use a glass water bottle, a quart glass water bottle every single day.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And I try and buy in glass too. So if there's a choice, buy in glass.
Exactly. I do too. That's exactly what I do.
And then store in glass. So no Tupperware type of plastic containers.
Yeah, or ceramic, yes. Everyone should store it and try to limit all the Ziploc and all the plastic. I mean, you're not going to get rid of all of it, but you could drastically reduce at least 50% in your environment.
Absolutely.
Right away.
And the other thing that I thought was really important that I don't think a lot of people realize are the foci infections, the dental infections with root canals, and then the mercury amalgams. Because don't a lot of things start in the mouth?
Right. Well, your mouth is a breeding ground naturally of organisms. But if our body gets too acidic or nutritionally compromised or too much stress and acidity, then we get infections and we get all kinds of significant issues. So our mouth is a breeding ground for infections, but under the right circumstances, the right thing happens, right?
Yes.
So we forget, though, our mouth is connected to the rest of the body.
Yes.
And we don't understand how an infection can terribly affect the entire body. And I'll give you a story. I don't know if I was I think I was a graduate student at the UT School of Public Health. And I worked with Denton Cooley, who he just died, I think in November. And he was a very, very famous cardiologist, cardiovascular surgeon. And he founded the Texas Heart Institute because I grew up in Texas. Anyway, I was a graduate student, but he would allow me to participate in the surgeries. Well, he did, after Neil Barnard, he did the first heart transplant. And why did the heart transplant happen? Because what happened is he went to go get a tooth pulled, and the infection traveled to his valve of his heart and destroyed his heart. So
really?
It showed, yes. And that's almost 40 years ago. So I've never, ever forgotten that story because, first of all, it made news. All the news people were there. Everybody was there, because it was like such a big deal, right? Now transplants are they're not routine, but, they happen a lot more, right?
Yes.
So, and infections. I always tell people, when you have the flu, you feel terrible, right?
Sure.
Well, if you have an infection in your mouth, your body's not going to feel good any day. And and that's what a root canal is a chronic infection. So if you don't remove the tooth, you're going to have a chronic problem, and it's going to wear down your immune system and give a great opening for cancer, not to mention all the chemical toxins those infections produce. Like Candida produces mycotoxins, but other infections create lots of toxins, and that's why you don't feel well.
Okay.
So it's very critical and we know that other infections contribute. So like if you have hepatitis, you're increased risk of cancer. I have several patients that have liver cancer from hepatitis. If you have HPV, you're higher risk for head and neck cancer. If you have H. pylori, which is an infection in the stomach, you have increased risk for cancer. So lots of infections are correlated with cancer. And so we have to eradicate the infections in the body, and we have to create an environment that bugs don't grow in the first place.
So there's tests, I guess there's GI, there's stool tests, and there's GI tests to see if you have some of these bacteria, parasites, fungi.
Yeah, there's
What would you recommend?
Well, that's a great question, Debbie, but the problem is the panels can't test everything. For example, there's hundreds of bacteria, hundreds of viruses, hundreds of parasites. There's no perfect test for any of this, okay? And people do this test, do that test, but there's no test that will check everything. There's no test, right? And so that's why I utilize energy testing in my practice, because you can't figure out everything in a blood test or a urine test or a stool test. So I implement energy testing, which I was never taught in medical school. And when I learned about it, I thought it was hogwash. And then when I really studied it and learned it and I utilized it on myself, I went, oh my goodness, now It's an indispensable tool in my medical practice. And I have all kinds of different testing that I can do and figure out patients very inexpensively, easily what's going on. So yes, you have to figure out all the imbalances in the body, and we have phenomenal testing now that does that may not be found in a blood, urine, or stool test. And parasites are very, very tricky organisms. They die within 20 minutes after it's been eliminated from the body. So you can't exactly. You
can't really catch it on a stool test then.
Exactly, because there's one guy I know in India and China, they actually will analyze it under a microscope as soon as the patient has a bowel movement. But I mean, who's Johnny right on the spot to do a bowel movement? So they do. There's a doctor I think that does fecal swabs right in the office that will go look at it under the microscope. But you have to do energy testing. There's a great book written by a doctor. He's a friend of mine called The Accidental Cure. And I learned about parasites from a doctor in Los Angeles who he actually is a gastroenterologist, and his thing is parasites, and he thinks that's the best thing. Now, he recommends a stool test called the Expanded GI Panel. But what I found is you can't just utilize that testing to verify absolutely every single parasite. So I do some of that testing, but I have found that energetic testing is my next best step to ascertain whether or not people have parasites, whether they have, other different kinds of things. Energy testing is, EKG is energy testing. That's electrical energy of the heart. And EEG of the head is electrical energy of the heart, of the head, right?
Yeah.
So we know you have acupuncture points on your fingers and toes that correspond to every organ in your body, and we can test the balance of those and see what is going on in the body. And your body, it's like a lie detector. It doesn't lie, and it's nothing. There is no 100% for any lab test, whether you're looking at urine or blood. There's no 100%. So you're putting the tapestry of the body by doing all of this different testing that I talk about in my book.
Yes, you do talk about it, and you have references there how to find the energy testing and doctors and things.
Right.
So that's very important. And I guess the health of the gut, the microbiome, is very important then.
Oh my gosh, that's the latest, greatest discovery now, is the microbiome. And everyone's microbiome is unique to them, right? No one has the same microbiome. And so the best way is to, one, avoid antibiotics. Well, the first thing is probably come into the world from your mother without being interrupted with any kind of antibiotics, and getting the colostrum, and your mother having a healthy microbiome, and you get the proper microbiome, and you do fermented foods to have an even better microbiome. So we are really mastering all the different things that microbiome, it plays an incredible role in everything. And whether you have anxiety, depression, cancer, or any other illness, the microbiome is the deal. That's the house of your immune system. There's a bi-directional pathway from your microbiome to your brain and there and back. And so we've got to really continue to look at that. But if we're ingesting antibiotics in our food, we're killing our microbiome, much less if you're giving it for a specific infection. And if you're eating foods that's genetically modified and we're ingesting glycerol phosphate, which is the bad chemical that's destroying the gut, then it's very, very difficult. That's why we're having so much of the autoimmune problems, all the medical problems we have.
So if you're eating a lot of processed food and a lot of genetically modified food, then your microbiome is going to be affected, and then these parasites and bacteria and things can kind of make their way in. Am I correct?
That's correct. That's correct, because you have the foundation of your gastrointestinal system is weak, so it opens itself to an invasion of organisms, right? So.
Okay.
So we've got to, we really have to focus on really not ingesting things, destroying them, and then realize the value of that microbiome. And you just can't take any probiotic. You got to think about what you're putting in your body, and then you got to think about really ingesting, ideally, fermented foods every day. So, and those aren't always the tastiest, so to speak. So.
A little raw sauerkraut or kefir.
Kefir, right.
Kefir.
Sauerkraut. I grew up on sauerkraut, and I grew up on fermented pickles. I mean, I grew up on, with that kind of stuff. But
I did too. Yeah.
The average person, though, we have refined the ingestion of food so much that we're eating everything artificial and processed. So,
and people think they could get a yogurt off the shelf, but really it's too processed and too full of sugar, and
exactly.
That's not going to cut it, right?
Exactly. That's not going to cut it. No.
Okay.
No.
Good. Okay. So the biological factors, then, let's talk about them too. I guess we got into poor diet a little bit.
Right.
And if you have nutritional deficiencies.
Let's talk about probably one of the biggest things, biological, is how we think.
Okay.
I sum it up in one sentence. You become what you think about most of the time. And yes, we all came into this world, and if you talk to every person, and I've talked to many, many, many people over my life, and lots of people have had a dysfunctional environment, whether they were molested, abused, violent, abandoned, all kinds of things.
Right.
And unfortunately for all of us, we cannot live in the past, and we must resolve all emotional conflicts, or it's going to manifest itself in the body. And Dr. Hamer, Hamer, discovered this when he had cancer back about 20 plus years ago. He was an oncologist who got testicular cancer. And he was 50, and he thought, well, wow, how did I get cancer? So then he started asking all the patients what happened to them and how they got cancer. And they all described something very traumatic. And so then he examined the CTs of their head and found like a scarring in their head. And your head has what we call a homunculus. And a homunculus is a body part in your brain. It's very interesting. It's fascinating. And so when he would examine it, it would be read as an artifact. But actually, Dr. Hamer said it was basically there was scarring, and it was from some emotional situation. Well,
really?
What happened to Dr. Hamer is his son was tragically killed. So they told him they wanted to do chemo. He refused to do chemo, and he got a team of people to talk himself out of the cancer, and that's how he cured himself. And then he went on to cure 30,000 patients after that with a 93% success rate.
Wow.
So that was brought to this country probably 10, 12 years, maybe. I'm trying to think, because I was at the conference in Denver. There was a conference on cancer in Denver, and these two guys were talking about it. And I thought, whoa. So I went to the first course they had here in the United States, and it is absolutely unbelievable and very scientific, very mathematical, and it would behoove any one of us to really understand how we came into this world and all the pieces of it. Okay, and so anyway, I always have our patients do some kind of emotional resolution. So we teach our patients all different things. But the story you're telling yourself has to change. It has to be great. It has to be positive. And the patients, what I see, Debbie, is that the patients who are so happy and so positive and so, they do amazing. I'm telling you, they first of all, they listen to their doctor and they follow through with what they need to do. Second of all, they are happy every single time they come in. Happy.
Which is good for the immune system, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they don't really complain. Dr. Connealy, I'm great. I'm doing what you told me to do. And they don't analyze everything to death. Don't analyze everything to death. To catch up to my knowledge, it's going to take a long time. Okay? So just, you have to kind of be humble to the process and say, you know what? I got to trust this process and I'm going to do it. And don't complain about it. Don't be negative about it. Don't listen to naysayers, because anything I tell you to do, there's no downside.
Okay.
And there's no better gift they can give to themselves than being happy. Happy thoughts make happy chemicals. It sounds simple, but it is.
Is that a lot of the being in the moment and meditation,
yeah, exactly.
and Tai Chi and yoga?
Right.
And
exactly, all those things I talk about in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to, we all have to train ourselves how we think. We can all say, well, my father didn't do this, and my mother could have done that, and my sister, we didn't have a good relationship. You know what? As I say in the last page of my book, I don't know if you remember, the last page says, love is the medicine for everything. And
That's
you
great.
just
Profound.
have to love people, because when you love people, they relax and they talk about things and you can resolve things, right?
Yes.
And so what does it cost to love? Nothing.
So you have to be able to let go of the negativity and embrace love. Yes.
Let go of the resentments. Let go of the envy. Let go of the jealousness. Just be happy that you, one, have a job. I'm happy, Debbie, I'm happy when I get in my bed and I have a bed and I have pillows. I am so happy. I am thrilled. Every night I say thank you, God, for this amazing bed I get to sleep in every night.
Absolutely. Or the cup of tea you're drinking, or the sunshine that's out.
Everything is, you got to look at how wonderful it is and how blessed we are, especially here in the United States. We are so blessed with so many great things and amazing things. And we have the opportunity now to learn. Like I said, we're in the era of information. We know how to look up anything. There's so much information out there for us to learn everything that we need to learn to get well or do anything else.
Okay. That's great advice for everyone.
Right, it is. And we all need to care about our fellow man.
That goes back to loving everyone.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
That's wonderful information.
Well, thank you.
We're all digesting that. Okay.
But it's true, Debbie, right? It's true.
Yeah, well, I think if you're in a loving place, then your body's going to be more relaxed. Your immune system's going to work better, and it's a foundational thing, right?
Right. That's right.
It's a foundational
very
thing.
Foundational. And it was interesting. I had a patient a couple of weeks ago, and she was I think, 8-9-year-old little Chinese girl, blind. And she was dropped off. She was from China. She was dropped off at the park one day. And the police picked her up. They brought her to the police station, and then she checked into an orphanage. She was in an orphanage for 5 years. And then a woman from the United States who had no children went and sought out orphanages and went to visit and picked this little girl up. And she's had her for 3 years. So this little girl came to see me because she has tics. Tics are the uncontrollable, involuntary muscle movements.
Okay.
And so, but that little girl, she was abandoned from birth. So the mother obviously knows all this, and they have a very open dialogue with the little girl about everything. Because the better they openly talk about everything, the little girl's going to have peace.
Right.
And now she's loved, and it's just going to take more and more time, because that gets into your DNA and into your subconscious. And so it'll be interesting how, the story goes on, and it's going to have all kinds of manifestations, but all kinds of things can happen to us. But it does not have to control us.
Right. It's how we deal with it then.
Yes, it's all. And everybody has tragedy. Everyone. I've been listening to patients for 30 years. Everyone has a story to tell.
Right. What I've had to deal with, and another biological factor that you've had on here, and I know Synthroid is the most prescribed medication in the United States, I believe, depressed thyroid function, which seems like so many people are dealing with.
Yeah, because the thyroid, it's the battery of the body. So if your thyroid doesn't work, nothing works. And so when you have lower thyroid, you have higher risk of cancer. And we have higher thyroid diagnosis because of all the chemicals and toxicity and iodine deficiency that we have. So we need to make sure that people don't have thyroid dysfunction or autoimmune thyroid problems or any other problem, because the thyroid rules the metabolism and functionality of every cell in your body. Now, I personally don't use Synthroid that much, because your thyroid makes T4 and T3, and you need both of the hormones, and a lot of things interfere with the conversion of T4 to T3.
Yes.
And so that's why I always make sure that people have optimal thyroid function.
Yes, and a lot of people seem to suffer with that.
Right, they do. I personally have a thyroid dysfunction, so I know very well.
So get rid of the gluten?
Yeah, gluten. Gluten is the biggest offender to thyroid.
And dairy can also be linked to that, I've read.
Yes, dairy and gluten and the glycerophosphate that's in the food now, the chemical that they use in Roundup.
Right, so we don't want any GMOs.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And fluoride?
Oh, fluoride. That's in toothpaste. It's in the water. Fluoride's a carcinogen. And if you look at the periodic table of chemistry, anyone who's taken chemistry, they know that fluoride is in a group of chemical compounds called halogens. Yes. And halogens interfere with iodine, which is also in the halogen family. But iodine is good for you, and fluoride isn't. Fluoride was used as a rat poison before. So fluorine or chlorine like in the swimming pools and in the water, that's a carcinogen. It's a carcinogen, which means a cancer-causing substance. And so, you want to avoid fluorine. So, because fluorine is, like I said, it displaces iodine in the body because it's in the same chemical group as halogen.
And then there's the bromine, too, which they were putting in bread.
Exactly. In bread. They started putting in the bread, 30, 40 years ago. So they put bromide in the bread, exactly, which is another halogen that displaces. So it's not good. It's not
okay, good. So those are some things to take into account.
Take into consideration, exactly. We need to start be mindful and really know what we're putting in or on or drinking in our body. Really know what it is. Find the truth of what that is and what it's going to do for us or against us.
Okay, because then you talk about the intestinal toxicity, unbalanced cellular terrain.
Yeah, well, intestinal toxicity happens because our food supply, too much chemicals in the that are destroying the gut. So we have so much gut disorders because we're ingesting things that are inhabitable to our body and shouldn't be in our body. Our body wasn't designed for all these chemicals and toxins and fake hormones and invading organisms and everything. It's not designed for that. So we've forgotten that nature is our, no technology can trump nature, right?
Absolutely. So the compromised detoxification was another biological factor you talked about. Can you talk about ways we can detox?
Yeah, well, that's compromise. We all are unique in our ability to detox. Like some people detox really well, and then some people, don't detox. So the best thing to do is stop ingesting toxins. The second most important thing to do is drink lots of water. Solution to pollution is dilution. And drink water that is purified and not
fluoridated.
Yeah, exactly. And everything else. Right. And then one of the easiest things you can do is sweat.
Okay.
Sweat chemicals and toxins out. I have all of our patients do liver cleanses regularly, whether you have illness or not. Okay, they all do cleansing. All right, they do all do liver cleansing rather, and then I do use homeopathics to detox the body. What that does is it assists the body to detox. Okay, it stimulates all the organ systems to get toxins out of the body.
Okay.
I have patients do clay baths. If they can't use a sauna, I have them do a clay bath on a regular basis with baking soda, Epsom salts, and clay all together. So the baking soda helps detox, helps you oxygenate, and helps you get rid of organisms. The magnesium relaxes and involved in over 400 chemical reactions, and the clay detoxes. So you get this like magical combo to do a whole lot of stuff.
Oh, that's really fascinating.
Yeah. So all of my patients, every single patient in here detoxes. And so because it's absolutely mandatory to live in this day and time in 2000, soon to be 17.
Okay. I think that's a pretty good education as to the toxins, the infections, and the biological factors that people should be aware of when they make their choices on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah, we have to teach the people the truth.
Absolutely. Because you said it takes about 10 to 12 years for a single cancer cell to eventually multiply to where it becomes a full-grown tumor. So we have plenty of time for lifestyle modification and plenty of time to choose better. And we have early detection tests too, and there were so many fascinating new screening tests and things in your book that I just found really amazing. So maybe we can talk about some of them to help us identify if cancer is brewing.
Right. Well, like I said, the cure for cancer is prevention. And today, right now, we know how to prevent cancer. And so, so one of the biggest things that a doctor can do is check their C-reactive protein, which is the non-specific marker for inflammation. If you have inflammation in the body, it's the precursor to all diseases. It doesn't tell me where the inflammation is. It just tells me there's inflammation. And we know inflammation is like the red light on the dashboard of the car. You can't put duct tape on it and go away. So we have to make sure we don't have inflammation. But
so
probably
that's a blood test, correct?
Yeah, it's a very simple blood test that any doctor, any lab can do.
Okay.
The other specific blood test I do is called the cancer profile. The cancer profile is a blood test. It's been around a long time, and it checks for blood and urine called quantitative HCG. HCG is the hormone of pregnancy and the hormone of malignancy. And then it checks an enzyme of hypoxia, low oxygen. And cancer thrives in a low oxygen environment. Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize for determining that cancer is a fermentative hypoxic process. And you can dial down the oxygen in cells and cause cancer. And so PHI is a blood marker of hypoxia or low oxygen.
Okay.
Then it also checks a marker called CEA. CEA is a non-specific marker for cancer. It checks your thyroid. It checks your DHEA sulfate, which is the hormone of stress, immune, and longevity, your adrenal glands, because if you have low adrenal glands, you don't have as good of immune system. Mm-hmm. And then it also will check the GGT, which is the very specific liver function test. So that's an easy test to do. It's very accurate. I tell people it's all about early detection. Now, I don't use one test as my blanket test. I do verification. So another blood test I do is Oncoblot. Oncoblot is a blood test relatively new that checks the ENOX2 protein, and this will determine many different tissues of cancer. And so it will determine the size of a pinhead, a cancer in your body. And
amazing.
So it will tell me what tissue type. Now, the other kind of test that we do is the RGC circulating tumor cells. So circulating tumor cells, and I've described this very, very specifically in the book, the circulating tumor cells are the cells responsible for metastasis. So if you have circulating tumor cells, that's what's responsible for 95% of metastasis. So you don't want that. So you don't want to have any circulating tumor cells. And people will say, well, everyone has cancer. Well, yeah, everyone has cancers, but not everybody has circulating tumor cells. Right. You may have cancer cells, but your immune system is detecting it and killing it. So anyway, it's
so that's good for someone that's had cancer and had surgery already to see if they're still circulating.
Well, you can do it both as a screening, and especially if you've had cancer, I would definitely do it.
Okay.
I do it on everyone who's had cancer. So
okay.
Anyone who's had cancer, you want to check your circulating tumor cells because, again, that's what's responsible for 95% of metastasis. Now, the other testing I do is called the bioimmune survey, and that's utilizing the energy testing I said earlier because you have acupuncture points in your fingers and toes that correspond to every organ in your body. And so we do something called the cancer cascade, which is it tells me if cancer early on in year 0 to 1, if cancer is trying to happen in your body. So,
really?
And I've been doing that for 18 years, so it's nothing new. So, and it's very, very accurate. So I put all this. I do thermography a lot of times. That will help me also. So I tell people I use ultrasound, thermography, blood tests. So I put it all together. There is no one test that you do. You need to do. You want to make sure.
I see.
Right. And so that's what I do.
And there's a meridian stress assessment testing too.
Right.
I thought
that's
that
the one I was. That was the testing I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's using the biomeridian machine exactly.
Oh, okay.
And that's amazing. And that's been around for Well, that came from Reinhold Voll, Voll, who was the German physicist and doctor who used to, who originally discovered the acupuncture points. So.
Okay, so people can find references in your book then to get these tests done.
Right. Oh, yes. There's references. They can always send us an email. We do Skype consults, phone consults, all kinds of things all over. I mean, we have people from Egypt. We have people from South America. We have, patients from all over the world, because cancer is a world problem.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, so you do distance consulting also.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. That's really exciting.
It is exciting. It's exciting. We got to change the world, and this is a mission to improve and prevent and save people's lives.
So, do you want to discuss what someone should do if they receive a cancer diagnosis? What type of treatments that are effective today that you can work with your integrative oncologist with?
Right. Well, if you get cancer today, if you get diagnosed, first of all, don't become the diagnosis. Number one. Number two, educate yourself on everything and the downside or upside of everything. Then work with someone who has a very broad base of knowledge about everything and can direct and guide you the best way possible.
Because a more integrative, holistic approach.
Yeah, you've got to be studying the new science that's happening. Medical knowledge doubles every 2 years, so you've got to, have that knowledge.
Okay.
So anyway, so you want a doctor who knows conventional medicine as well as all the new medicine, the new allopathic medicine.
Okay.
So you have to have that because then you don't truly know. And so patients are really, really studying everything now. Patients are really very intelligent and very diligent about their workup and what they want and what they do and what makes sense.
Okay. And there's a lot of really new innovative treatments now.
Right. Well, the conventional treatments that have been around for 50 years are surgery, chemo, and radiation. But now there's cryotherapy, there's SOT therapy. SOT stands for supportive oligonucleotide technique. That was brought to the United States about 4 years ago. And that takes the genetics of the DNA in account, and you create a new messenger RNA to disrupt the DNA of the cancer cell. So that's a new treatment. And then, of course, utilizing IV vitamin C and ultraviolet light to kill all the microorganisms in your body and the toxic burden and, all these there's so many other things to get the body back in balance. And so, and you got to do it all because this cancer has been going on for 10 or 12 years. You're not going to get rid of it in a month.
Right.
And you're not going to get rid of it just doing surgery. You're not going to get rid of it just doing surgery or chemo, and you're not going to get rid of it just doing surgery, chemo, or radiation, because you must address the circulating tumor cells.
I see.
That's the future of oncology.
Really interesting. Yeah, so you have to get to the root and kind of hit it from every different angle with many different things.
Right.
Well, I think that we have covered part one of the book really well.
Okay, good. But we can, it's always good we can do another, a whole nother thing on all, eating and all the lots of other things.
Right. Yeah, the 6 revolutionary cancer strategies. Yeah, we could do that next time. I think this is great, though.
Yeah, it is.
So much great information. So anybody can really call for a consult long distance then?
Right. Oh, yeah, we do tons of that.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, then I can refer people. That's wonderful.
Right.
I have a personal question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I just had a GI effects stool profile done from Genova, and my beta-glucuronidase is very high.
Right.
So apparently I'm not escorting out estrogen and toxins.
Right, exactly. So,
and I felt pretty bad, and I had great diversity in my microbiome, but it's way overgrown, everything.
Oh, interesting.
Really high, and they found some potential pathogenic bacteria. So I have calcium D-glucarate.
Glucarate, right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And then I'm trying to do some natural things instead of taking an antibiotic.
Right. No, you want to take oregano oil.
I am taking that.
And but you got to take 2-3 times a day for 3 weeks.
2 drops?
No, 2 pills, 2 capsules.
I have an oil. That's not as good.
That's okay. You can do that, but it's going to be more than 2 drops. So.
Then that stuff's tough to take too.
Yeah. Well, that's why we put it in capsules.
Okay. Maybe I should get the capsules then.
Yeah.
What else do I have? They gave me a bunch of different things. Oregano, uva earthy.
And iodine. You got to make sure you're on iodine too.
Yeah, I tried iodine before, and I crashed so bad my thyroid, and I took the teeniest little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I guess because I have Hashimoto's.
Right. So you need to detox more.
Yeah, I'm not detoxing well. I don't detox well.
Yeah, so you just have to slowly. I mean, you got to start with something homeopathic then.
Okay. And then I also have an infrared sauna, and I try and sweat, and...
Oh, that's good. That's ideal.
I'm trying to drink a lot. I have really good matcha tea, and...
Oh, awesome.
They were saying plant tannins, too, to help with bacteria. So maybe in black tea. I wasn't quite sure about that.
Mm-hmm. That's okay, though. I mean, I don't know how critical, but...
It sure can't hurt, right?
Can't hurt, right.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I started to feel horrible. I just really started to feel so bad. Grapefruit seed oil I'm doing. And then I have probiotics and Saccharomyces boulardii.
Oh, really? That's interesting. They gave you that probiotic?
Yeah, 2 different ones, and food enzymes to take with every meal.
Right. That's good.
I'm feeling better, actually, in 2 days.
Uh-huh.
But I'm being extremely strict. I've had no sugar, no dairy, and no grains for over 2 weeks.
Oh, that's hard to do, so I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And then I even brought the animal protein down, too. But everything's organic. I'm doing a lot of raw vegetables, and I'm feeling better, so I'm getting there.
Good
but
girl.
I feel like, that's very cancer-causing if you're not escorting these toxins and hormones out that need to be gone.
That's true.
So, okay. I wanted to see what you thought about that. And then I guess, so my mom could call you and consult then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I lost my father in August from prostate cancer at 70 years old.
Oh.
He was never heavy. He never was on any medication. And my mother's 69 and looks great, too. And it was just such a shocker. It was both of them at the same time.
I know. That's a lot.
And I was already in this whole thing, but then I started to get more into the cancer side of it. I was always into the health and the exercise side of it. But I got into the cancer side of it, and then my father started to get sick. So I've been through all of this, and then my mother got sick. So I'm so entrenched in it, and I'm so curious, and I just find it fascinating, all of it. I eat it right up.
Well, that's good. That's how you can help people, your own personal interest.
Right. So I keep telling everybody about your book and all these tests and things they can do.
Thank you for spreading the message. That's what we need.
Yes. So we will keep, we're like-minded. We'll keep spreading the word and the information, and I hope your book is a great success. I'm sure it will be.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I appreciate all your help and support.
Thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday.
You too. You too. Thank you so much.
And I guess we will talk soon.
Yeah, we will. We'll be in touch.
Okay, great.
Bye-bye, Debbie. Take care.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Beat Cancer Answer. If you learned just one thing today about how to prevent, cope with, or beat cancer, then we have succeeded in our mission. For more information or assistance, visit our website at BeatCancer.Org. Remember to sign up for our educational email series and get your free gift. Join in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, where you can meet others who think just like you. We appreciate all of your feedback and love your suggestions. Please also remember to rate us on iTunes. Your positive ratings help us to get discovered so we can save more lives. Thank you again for listening, and best wishes for good health from all of us at BeatCancer.Org.